Hi folks, John Cordisco here. It's a game that I saw picked up. It's kind of an off tournament. It's the University of Texas at Dallas. I guess it's their spring break tournament, and of course there's two Americans and I'm American. Conrad Holt is white, an up and coming player in the US, and Sevian, both grandmasters, and they're young, and I mean young. I think Samuel's 14. Conrad Holt might be a little older. He's also playing in the U.S. Championship coming up at the end of March, early April, here being played in the Chess Club in Classic Center in St. Louis. Anyway, it's a really, really interesting game. Now, I'll tell you up front, I believe it was 90 minutes for each side. I'm trying to remember the time control, with no second time control, and there's a 30-second increment. And it gets down to the end, and one side is winning, and then it's losing, and then it's winning, and then it's losing, and then it's winning, and then it's losing. It's really wild stuff. Let's get to it. Conrad Holt is white. Samuel Sevian is black. It's going to be a semi-Slav. Seen this couple of million times. We'll go through the opening. Bishop, pawn, knight, pawn. It's the Botvinnik system. It's really nightmarish. Knight, pawn takes. Believe it or not, white's got a tiny advantage. You think black is just getting killed here, but it's not. And this has been gone over. This is a position that Gary Kasparov talked about quite often. It's one of the most complicated systems there is. Maybe not now too much with computers, but it certainly is tough. G3, queen to B6 for Conrad. What to do? What to do? It's pretty much even game now. It's going to start getting crazy here soon. Of course, you fianchetto the bishop, and both sides castle. The opposite side castling, you know what that usually means. That means, holy crap, here we go. Knight d5. Now, the computer did that. It's showing that black's getting up on the d4 pawn. No kidding. D takes. Rook takes. Rook takes. Now we have one of those weird imbalances, b4. Now we have one of those weird imbalances. A rook and knight and a pawn for a queen. Now, like my understanding is pretty much standard stuff in this opening. We'll have to see. Knight d4. Small advantage here for black. Not much of one. Half a pawn. c5. These positions are always great to watch anyway. Maybe not so fun to play. h4. Let's go. You got an outside passer. Let's get going. Let's make sure that rook is stuck there. Bishop d5, at least that would have been my thinking. Rook a to c1. Go after that pawn mass right away. Queen a6. Those of you that were wondering, that rook to g8. Knight to d6. Check. Bishop takes. Pawn takes. Tough one. I don't know. That's pretty tough. After queen a6, bishop e3, going after the pawns. Queen a2. Now we're on move 20 now. I'm trying to recall when roughly I came in and the time trouble that was had. Knight to g5. Now this is where I think Samuel stumbles. That's a really strong bishop there on d5. But he decides to take the other light squared bishop. Bishop h6 was the computer's choice. Then after knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, bishop takes, pawn takes. Now, granted, that's crazy stuff. Look at these pawn masses. There's 5 passed pawns on each side. And believe it or not, the computer shows 0.00. Holy crap. Besides the take, king takes. Now he goes bishop h6. See, I think he had the right idea. I don't think he was just ready for those complications. Time was starting to run down for him. We're on move 22 now. For those of you that are wondering if he had taken the pawn instead, after knight takes, rook g8, queen takes, rook takes c4, and black is doomed. Absolutely doomed. I always like to say this in my videos because I think it all the time. Look at this position. Holy crap. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. You know, I always say what to do, and I mean it literally now. Conrad takes the pawn, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes. Now, white had an extra pawn not too long ago. Because of the position, though, he's up over a pawn. Just have to keep it together. King to f3, bring your king up, and let your knight and two rooks guard those passed pawns. Rook to f8. Knight checks. That knight comes in the game real quick. King to b8. Knight takes c4. Okay, there's one of the pawns. I like white a lot right here. It's only a pawn up, a little over in score, but I think white is so much easier to play. Queen to a2. g4. Queen to a6. He's trying to get the queen back over. Doesn't have the number of pieces that white has. Granted, it's a queen and a rook, but two rooks, a knight, and a bunch of pawns are pretty formidable. Knight to d6. Get that knight right in there. Queen checks. King g3. Queen a6. I mean, black's pretty much stuck. King to f3. Queen to c6. King to f2. I think what that was is they were picking up the increment. Now we're on move 31 now. And these guys are starting to get low on time, especially black, Sam Sevian. So I think those moves were just to try to gain some time on the 30-second increment. b3 is a chosen move for the computer. And the second choice is way, way higher and less than score. b3 was the obvious move. He decided to go queen to a4. Question mark. If he had gone b3, rook to d2, queen a4, rook takes, queen takes. Maybe black can survive that. But after queen to a4, the computer is screaming for knight to e4. Absolutely screaming for it. And that's a move, I'll tell you the truth, folks, that would be hard to find. He went knight to c4, a very natural move, and all the white's advantage now is almost gone. It's less than a half a pawn advantage. To give you an idea, if he had gone knight to e4 instead, knight to e4, queen checks, rook to d2, and that's it. It's over. Black is doomed. But he makes the very natural human move, knight to c4. How can you fault him for that? Queen to c6. Knight to d2. Here's where it starts getting crazy. He goes to a4 again. And white's advantage is all back. 2.5 pawns almost. g5. b3. Rook to c4. Queen to a2. Over a 3-point advantage now for white. The game is lost. g6. Look at the pawns coming down. Rook to d8. Hitting that knight twice. King goes back to e1. Let's go back here. Instead of going g6, which is another human move, and time trouble I might add, king to f3 basically wins the game. So I'm going to go ahead again where we were. b2. Rook to c2. Computer shows dead even. And these guys are running on fumes, especially black. They're basically running on the increment. Queen to a4. Hitting that rook. Rook takes check. King a8. Now, believe it at this point, if you can believe it, it's dead even on the computer. The next 3 suggested moves are all 0.00. And they're basically playing on a 30-second increment. Double up your rooks. Natural, right? Queen takes h4. King to f1 draws. He went from a win to a draw. Well, it happens sometimes. But he decides to go king to d1. And just like that, black is winning. If he had gone king to f1, all the moves are drawn. There's nothing really he can do. It's basically a fortress. But he goes king to d1. Queen checks. King to e1. and that's where he resigns. He's going to lose the G-Pawn. It's just a shame. It really is. And that's what happens when you're in time trouble. I thought that was a pretty wild game, so I thought I'd show it. A lot of tournaments going on right now. The Rinky-Vink Open, won by Lamy. He's a 1.5 up with 1 round left. I think I might have one game from that tournament. And also right now is the Women's World Championship going on in Sochi, Russia. And I'll tell you, I liked watching the women play. They're a lot more exciting to watch. Anyway, folks, I just thought that was a fun game to throw in from the University of Texas at Dallas. They called their spring break tournament. Anyway, folks, look for a lot of stuff coming up. The U.S. Championship, one of my favorite tournaments, is coming up the beginning of April, so look forward to that. And as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.